हाय एवरीवन। अगर आप लोग आरबीआई 2025 को सीरियसली देख रहे हो एज एन अटेम्प्ट एज एन एग्जाम दैट यू कैन क्लियर, then a detailed thorough analysis of the cutoffs of 2023 and 2024, phase 1, phase 2 and final cutoff. These three things are very important. If you have not done it or if you are not doing it, then you are missing out on an understanding, a very interesting understanding of how cutoff can help you clear the examination or get closer to the examination. Not specifically clear the exam because you need to study for that, but get closer to the examination. Stay more targeted, stay more focused, stay more organized. There are three things that I'm going to discuss today. Target number one, actual number two and cutoff number three. टारगेट स्कोर आपका क्या होना चाहिए, एक्चुअल स्कोर आपका क्या होता है एंड कट ऑफ स्कोर क्या होता है. ये तीनों स्कोर्स को ध्यान में रखना जरूरी है. इट्स इंपॉर्टेंट टू रिमेंबर, अंडरस्टैंड and keep in mind all these three scores, because otherwise you will keep taking phase 1 again and again, year after year. You will not clear the exam, and then you will keep blaming yourself that you're not good enough or you're not studying enough or you don't know what is wrong. What is wrong is lack of understanding of target score, actual score and cutoff score. Let's get to it. Let's try and understand these three different kinds of scores through our analysis and comparison of 2024 and 2023. Phase 1, Phase 2, final cutoff. Let's begin. If you look at Phase 1, RBI 2024 scores, then you will see that the cutoff in Phase 1 was 67.25. This is out of 200. Looks very easy, not very difficult also if you are able to plan it well and then supplement it with good studies. Now, this year's cutoff in 2024, the cutoff, individual cutoff of all the papers, all these 4 papers was kept at 25%. Now, this 25% has also changed in the past, like you see in OBC or in other sectors or categories, the cutoff changes. In other years also, the cutoff has changed. Sectional cutoff has changed sometimes, but let's keep it at 25% so that we are able to easily, comfortably clear the sectional cutoff. Otherwise, you might find yourself stuck in a situation where you have cleared the overall cutoff but could not clear the sectional cutoff. I will keep that in mind also in my explanation. So the sectional cutoff was kept at 25%. What should have been the target in 2024 phase 1? Journal awareness 40 should have been the target. Now this is, I'm talking about the target score, not the actual score. Reasoning, the target should have been 25, English 25 plus, and quant 10 to 15, anywhere between 10 to 15. Ideally 15 should be the target, but I'm making the target more realistic so that you can understand it and accept it. So your target score had to be, in your mind, your target score had to be 100. If your target score is 67, 70, 71, then there is no chance that you will clear the examination. So as I said, there are 3 scores. Target score is the one you always look at. Target score for phase 1 2024 had to be 100. Similarly, in 2023, the cutoff was 54.25 out of 200. Very less, comparatively lesser than 2024. Why was it lesser? Because it was a bouncer year. There were many unexpected changes that RBI had not notified that happened in this year. In 2024, those changes were continued. So unpredictability reduced in 2024, and specifically because of that one reason, the cutoff jumped from 54 to 67, almost 14 marks, 13 to 14 marks. In this year, we might see another jump of 10 marks if there is no unpredictability in this year's exam as well. So the cutoff might jump from 67 to 77, almost 80 as well, if there are no changes, because students keep preparing, keep getting better and better as the examinations proceed. Okay. As you can see, in 2023, no specific rule was being followed. 25% rule was violated because the cutoff was too low. But nonetheless, even if this rule was violated, for me, the rule stands the same. 25% for sectional cutoff. I'm not going to think of anything less than that. What is my target score? My target score in phase 1 is 100. What are the different areas? How will I achieve this 100? 40 plus or 40 in general awareness, 25 in reasoning, 25 in English, and about 10 to 15 in quant. This is how I want to achieve this 100 marks. Okay. Comparison, as I said, paper was similar. There was no surprise. Now, what were the changes in 2023 because of which the cutoff was so low? एकदम से इतनी लो कट ऑफ क्यों गई? ओवरऑल कट ऑफ स्पेशली, what was the major change? The difficulty and length of journal awareness increased, and we also see 40 plus questions from finance current affairs in phase 1 journal awareness. These two changes in journal awareness alone pushed the cutoff very low to 54 marks. But you might be saying, sir, only general awareness, how can that change the overall cutoff of all these three also? It is purely psychological. Even if reasoning section was similar with minute changes, even if English was similar with minute changes, even if quant was similar with minute changes, because you have taken journal awareness test already, journal awareness is the first one you see, you are in shock, and in that shock, students tend to attempt less, tend to change their strategy. A lot of people, a lot of students in shock tend to give up as well. That is why the overall and as well as sectional cutoff for all these other subjects as well, reasoning, English and quant, was also seen to go down, the sectional cutoff. Overall, the scores also went down because of this specific reason. Journal awareness was a big bouncer and a big shock for students. So they started expecting that reasoning, quant, English will also be bouncers, will also be supremely difficult. And that is why they stopped attempting more questions. They started attempting less. That is a psychological kind of a warfare that the examiner can unleash on you, and you have to be prepared for it. You have to train for it. Just like any other war, this is nothing less of a war. Okay. What are the learnings from phase 1 cutoff? Do not rely on journal awareness alone. Gone are those days when journal awareness alone could get you through. That is why, what is my target? Reasoning 25, very ambitious target. English 25, very ambitious target. And quant, I'm keeping it a little below, but I personally would expect 15 as the target score, but I'm keeping it at 10 so that you don't start, disbelieving me, and you don't disown me, and you don't stop watching my videos. So, coming back, GA alone cannot be relied upon. All the other subjects are equally important now. In English, try and score 25 plus to get that edge that you need to clear the overall cutoff. Otherwise, if you're not scoring 25 plus in English in phase 1, you're losing out on the edge. A lot of students score 16, 17 in English and they're very happy. Sir, in quant I scored just 8, but in English I scored 18. I think I'm doing very well in English. Well, you're not. Why? Because there's a massive difference in the level of paper of quant versus English. English, the average score is 25. Quant, the average score is 5. So there's a gap of 20 marks. Therefore, your score should also have a gap of 20 marks. If you're scoring 7, 8 in quant, then you have to score 27, 28 in English. That goes without saying. But I'm reiterating it because I know a lot of students miss out on it. It doesn't mean that you have to spend a lot of time on English. Be smart. Just try and practice it through papers. That is all that you need to do. And target 50% in quant and reasoning. When you target 50% in quant and reasoning, which means 30 in reasoning and 15 in quant, then you will end up getting 25 in reasoning and about 10, 12 in quant. That much you need. Why do you need that much score? Because the sectional cutoff is high, bro. Reasoning mein, you target 30, you get 25. Even then, you're not very much away from the cutoff. The cutoff is 15. There's not high gap between 15 and 25. You can two answers wrong and you can two puzzles wrongly attempted and you can come down very fast from 25 to 15. Similarly, quant, very thin margin. You target 15, you get 10, 10 and 7.5, very thin margin. Okay. If 2-3 questions go wrong, go here and there, you might end up losing on the sectional cutoff. That is why the target has to be high, and not only on paper, in your mind as well, the target has to be very high. That is the biggest learning from phase 1. Okay, in phase 2 we are going to have amazing different kinds of learnings altogether, so stick around. If you started watching this, then watch the entire video, you will learn something new certainly. So this is for phase 1. Let's come to phase 2 now. In RBI phase 2 2024, what was the cutoff? It was 173.5 out of 300, and the target score should have been, according to me, 210 out of 300. Now you might be thinking, sir, 173, 210, the gap is humongous. You want me to study and make sure that I get 40 marks above the cutoff? That looks BS to me. That does not sound realistic to me. You might be thinking that. It is realistic. I'll tell you how in a very short while. In RBI 2023, it was very similar, very close to 2024 cutoff at 169 out of 300. So the target would have stayed the same, 210. As I said, there is a target score 210 here. But when you target 210, when you are preparing to get 210, when you're practicing and comparing yourself not with others but with this target score in mind, you take my mock test tomorrow of phase 2, you score let's say 180. Even if you're first in the entire list of aspirants, 180 is not enough. Don't be happy. Why? Because your target score is 210. That is where you have to be. That is how much you have to study and force the examiner to give you 210. When you actually target that much, you will not achieve that much, but you will end up achieving an actual score of 190, 195. You need an actual score of 195 to be certain that you're going to clear the examination. 99%. 1% you can still go wrong. I'll tell you very shortly why and how. But 195 in phase 2, you're very close to clearing the exam. Anything below 195, you're probably very high chances not going to clear the exam. Okay, so let's write it down. If you score 195, yes, I scored 195, your 99% chances of clearing the exam. You have cleared the exam, almost there. Let's assume that you are not able to score 195, you're able to score 185, then it immediately shifts to the extent that 99% chances that you will not clear the exam. That is the difference. Not 50-50 anymore, it's 99 to 1 immediately. As soon as your score is not close to 195, the moment it becomes like 190, 180, 185, you are in danger zone, and danger zone to the extent that 99% you're not going to clear the examination. There are some outliers, they're always there, but you don't want to be that outlier. You want to be in your comfort zone when you're going for the interview and even after the interview, right? So when you target a score of 210, then you will end up having an actual score of 195, and the cutoff is expected or assumed to stand somewhere around 175. I'm taking it on a higher side to make sure that I have enough buffer. Even if I target 210, actual score is 190, even then I'm way above the cutoff and I'm still not in the danger zone. But the moment I go below 190, I immediately get into the danger zone. So your actual score will be 195 only when you have a mental target of 210. If it is anything short of 210, you are not going to clear the exam. Let's talk about the final cutoff of RBI 2024. It stood at 226.75. Let's assume 227 out of 375. Now 227 or 226 minus 173, that means 53. So if you had cleared phase 2 cutoff by just being on that margin of 173, and if you wanted to clear the final cutoff of 226, you had to get a minimum of 53 marks in the interview, which is very, very high. Even toppers have not been able to get 53. Some students do get 70. A lot of students do get above 60, but there is a huge amount of population, a lot of students who get between 40 and 50, who get stuck there. That is the average score range. And a lot of students who get below 40 as well. You don't want to be amongst those students. And if you do, by any chance, you're not clearing the examination, you've wasted a year, you have to repeat the cycle again. Therefore, 220, 173 is a very high danger zone. 226, the gap is very high, 53 marks. You will certainly, very high chances, not be able to clear that gap. It's too much of a difference. Therefore, you want to get your uh, advantage in phase 2 itself. You don't want to wait for the interview. Interview is very unpredictable. Okay, what will be your target score in the interview and in phase 2? In phase 2, we have already discussed 210 is the target score. Interview, 50 is the target score. Then you end up getting 260. I should call it 60 rather than 50. If you work through me and I select 20-30 odd students and try and work on them to make sure that we're able to score 60 plus in the interview. So I think the target score should be 660. Only then you will be able to probably attain 50. But nonetheless, 50, 60, very close. So target score will be 260. Only then the actual score will be 195 plus 50, that is 245. And the cutoff is in the range of 225 to 230. You want to have that gap of 50 marks. And this gap of 20 marks has been attained in phase 2 only, and it can be attained in phase 2 only. You cannot increase this gap, you cannot have an extra advantage probably in the interview stage. So you want to get as much advantage as possible in phase 2. So get an advantage of 20 plus marks in phase 2 itself. Do not wait for interview. This is where it went out of the league of a lot of students. In 2023, the phase 2 cutoff was 169. The interview final cutoff was 229. That means a student who had 169 or 170 had to attain 60 marks in order to clear the final cutoff and become an officer. Now 60 is almost impossible unless you are amazing at interview skills. You don't want to take your chances on a 15-minute, 20-minute, 30-minute interview and say that I'm going to get 70 out of 75. That depends on a lot of variable factors which are probably not in your control. Let's say you're going for the interview and somebody spills tea on your shirt. You are screwed. You're not going to get 70 out of 75. You might be able to score 55, but 70, very difficult. They will immediately judge you and say that such an important interview, you do not have a spare, number one. Secondly, how could you be so reckless? People around you are reckless, but you can't be. So now the dream of scoring 70 on 75 has gone in the dustbin. Why? Just because somebody spilled tea or coffee on you. No mistake of yours, but you are suffering. You don't want to be in that situation where the unpredictability is very high. Therefore, what do? You try and take that advantage in phase 2 itself. Target score, I'm repeating it again, 210. Actual score, only then it will come down to 190, 195. And the cutoff is normally in the range of 165 to 75. That is the normal range in phase 2 for a long time. Okay. So this is the analysis of cutoff. Please use these learnings. If you can, I would recommend that you watch this entire video again. Just close your eyes the second time, play it again, and try and understand what am I trying to say, because otherwise you will skip a lot of tips and tricks that I have given you just right now in the past 15-20 minutes. Make sure you don't miss those tips, you don't miss those targets, you don't end up going back to your usual routine, usual way of studying, and forget what have I said just right now in the last 15 minutes. That is all. This cutoff analysis I think is good enough for you to clear the examination. I don't want to criticize RBI, criticize students, talk about normalization, because all of that is all controversy. But I don't want to get into controversy, nor do you. You want to study and clear the examination. I want you to study and clear the examination. Okay, straightforward technique, straightforward analysis, straightforward target score, actual score, and then the final cutoff. Keep these three things in mind. I'm very sure you're going to see your name in the final list this year. Keep studying hard. All the best. Bye-bye.